Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. You have joined Get to Know the Brain 14, your universe of ideas. And we hope to be expanding your of ideas today with today's demo. My name is Matt Caton. I'm the Director of Customer Solutions here at TheBrain Technologies, and I am joined by none other than our CEO, Harlan Hugh.
Hey everybody, thank you, Matt. Pleasure to be here. So we're pretty excited about this release of the Brain 14 as always. But this release is really kind of a turning point for the software in that this is the first time that your brain really can start contributing directly to your thinking, right?
Yeah.
Up until now, the brain has all been about capturing your thinking and kind of playing it back for you, right? But today, with the advent of AI, your brain can actually give you new ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Digest your ideas, reorganize them, summarize them, all of these things that were kind of science fiction not too long ago. And this has been a long time coming. We started the Brain, officially launched in 1998, of course, but I'd been working on it for some time before then. One of the things that people would always ask me is like, well, can it do this for me? Like, and the answer was always, well, no. And internally, I'm kind of laughing at them like, are you crazy? Like, do you know how hard that is? But finally today, the answer can be yes. So so it's very exciting from that perspective. But I thought we'd just start out today by talking a little bit about kind of the history of the software.
Sure. Yeah.
I started working on the Brain in the mid 90s, let's say. And it took about 3 years from this kind of the founding of the company, I guess, until the first release came out.
Yeah.
And that release, of course, was Windows only, built in C++. And we were on that kind of generation of software for, I don't remember how long exactly, but basically the Brain 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And then the Brain 4 came out. And with the Brain 4, we got into kind of cross-platform software. We built it in Java, of course, and we started to work much more tightly on the integration between the Brain and the web, right?
Yeah.
You used to have your Brain just on your desktop machine, and the whole concept of the cloud wasn't really a thing. I mean, Sun talked about the network is the computer and all that kind of stuff, but that vision has finally arrived, and the Brain software is also there at this point. But in version 4, we first started to really kind of get that going, and then I think it was version 7 where we had full syncing between the software and the cloud, and you could have multiple copies at different places.
Yeah, things get cloudy in there for me. Was it 6 or 7? But there's been those milestone builds, like 1.0, then 4.0. We left Java, and version 8 was a big build that was out there for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I feel like 14 is another one of those big milestones.
Exactly,
We'll always remember, like, wow, AI and the Brain is amazing.
So from 8 to 9, of course, 9 was another complete rewrite.
Yeah.
So that was the third complete rewrite of the software. And in that version, we took a hard look at kind of what platform made the most sense, and C# was the choice, of course. And we wound up kind of rebuilding everything, redesigning everything, and we had a much stronger native user interface look. All those things. And then I think it was version 10 or 11. At some point, we rewrote the entire notes editor again.
Yes, yeah.
And then
it was 10. Notes editor in 10. 11, we introduced the backlinks and mentions, and it really tied your notes with the content and structure of your thoughts. Like suddenly the two were working together.
Yeah.
And you could even minimize the plex and just navigate through your brain right from the footer in the notes area with them.
Yeah, the vision for the Brain, even from before we released version 3, was that you would have a notes editor that was kind of like integral to the Plex itself, right? And the back and forth play between them would be, sort of seamless. But with version 11, and now on the web, of course, you can really kind of do everything either from the Plex or from the notes interface, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, of course, in version 13, another rewrite of the notes editor. And now version 14, the notes editor and the Plex both feature very powerful AI capabilities. And then, of course, version 14 also features yet another thing, which is going to kind of free us from the shackles of the operating system in terms of search. One of the things that's kind of plagued us for quite some time now has been the difficulty of getting the operating system and the indexing and all of that kind of back end to work the way we wanted it to. We managed to do a lot of stuff with it, but in version 14, we replaced all of that. You're probably not aware of that under the covers if you're just kind of using the software and not thinking about it. But instead of asking the operating system what's inside this brain, we now have our own index, which we can use to much more dynamically search through your brains, so that when you're finding information, whether it's inside of a note or you're creating a new thought or what have you, we can leverage the entirety of all your brains.
Yeah.
And that's going to be something that's really just getting started in version 14.
I was always surprised by the number of people that said, "Oh no, I turned my search off on my operating system.
Right.
Like I turned Spotlight off. I turned Windows Desktop Search. I turned it off. I
Yeah.
had no idea." And it's like, well, that's kind of what we're using now in those
Right.
earlier versions. So we've gotten away from that. So you can still have those turned off, and the brain still searches. And we'll demo that today. Of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, all of these milestones, from going across the cross-platform to the cloud to AI, the new notes editor, the new search, all of these things are just kind of steps that are developing and really evolving the software from really just kind of an idea and a vision of being able to take everything in your mind and put it into the computer, into a tool that now I think is, far and away the most powerful way to organize all your information, especially for an individual, and more also for collaboration in groups.
Yeah.
So we can't wait to get started and show you what we've accomplished here with 14.
Great. And so let's dive right in. I love that you said you mentioned specifically the evolution of the software, because we're going to hit on that quite a bit today. And so this is a sample brain, and let me just start off by saying you can put any type of digital information into your brain. We looked at the attendee list today, and the folks that are joining us are coming from all different walks of life, pharma, lawyers, doctors, universities. So there's really no, one brain that suits everyone's interests and passions out there. So this is a sample brain that I'm going to be sharing today, and I'll cover a wide variety of different topics. And also, we're jumping right into these version 14 features. I'll say right off the top, if you are new to the brain, please feel free to join us for a Brain 101. We have those every Friday, and that's where we really start at the beginning. And within 10, 15 minutes, we create a new brain from scratch, so you can see how quickly and easily you can start using the brain software. So we're focused on the Brain 14 features today. I'm going to jump right in, and I am going to first go down here to my company thought, and I've got some different projects that I'm working on. I'm just going to jump into my marketing projects. And, maybe I already know a little bit about marketing. I've got, we're going to be signing up for some trade shows, industry publications that, are in my field, related to my field. Certainly going to hit the social media. But what am I missing? Of course, we can go out to Google and do a search and, most popular marketing trends that are happening these days. And when we find something we like and want to preserve and refer back to that document or that process, we can drag and drop that into the brain. Well, now I'm going to start looking at my marketing challenges, and this is where I'll keep, my notes as my marketing campaigns grow and evolve. But I'm going to create a new thought simply called most efficient marketing strategies. And once again, when I find something that looks of interest to me, I can bring that right into the brain. but I'm going to use the AI. I'm going to get a jump start on this particular project, and I can click the AI button right here in the Plex area of the brain. We'll be navigating over to the AI button in the content area of the brain in just a bit. But first, let's take a look at all of our different choices here. We can generate an in-depth thought structure. And this is what I think is really unique and great about the brain, and what initially got me thinking, wow, AI isn't just a toy where we can go out to ChatGPT and ask it a challenging question. I can actually generate an in-depth thought structure of content, of projects that I'm working on, topics that I'm interested in. And when I find a subcategory that AI creates for me, I can continue building upon that. And you can actually create a brain on a topic where you start out knowing very, very little and create a really in-depth, structured, intelligent brain in just a matter of minutes. And just really quickly, we won't have time to cover all of these today, but you can set a context thought. So if your topic is very sort of broad or general, I can find a parent thought up above under the context of, if I'm marketing, under the context of biotechnology or engineering or whatever the case may be. I can play around with the creativity. I can select whether I want just groupings of categories or lists of specific items, depending on what I'm searching. And we have 78 different languages, I believe, that we can choose from as well. So let's go ahead and generate a thought structure. The other button below thought structure was to generate just a grouping of child thoughts, if I just wanted some general topics on something that I'm working on. And here again is another feature that I like to highlight. And this is what Harlan mentioned of transitioning from just creating a brain that's all about me and my processes. Now I've invited this really smart friend, AI, to add content for me. So notice that all of these thoughts have what we call a marching ants. They're sort of highlighted, and I can review this. Like, do I really want to keep everything that it brought in for me? Now, for the sake of time, I'll go ahead and keep this, but notice I can redo. So I can change my query, tweak it a little bit, or I can just discard this and say, no, this wasn't what I'm looking for, and just rethink the whole thing. I'll go ahead and accept this. And now I have this really in-depth structure of innovative marketing strategies, guerrilla marketing, experiment. These are some things that I really hadn't thought of quite yet. Now, what is guerrilla marketing? I kind of know, but I'm going to let AI give me a clear definition of where to get started with this project. Again, I can create some new thoughts, or I can come over here into the notes area, and I'm actually going to generate a new note. I can specify the word count if I just want a brief description or an in-depth review of what guerrilla marketing is. I'll generate that note. And I'm not typing that. I certainly can't type that fast. That's AI doing all the work for me. So, and they give some great examples, IKEA and Red Bull. That's great. So I can reference how other people have leveraged guerrilla marketing, and I can benefit from, their success or failures or what have you. And once again, we can accept these changes, redo, and discard. So I'll go ahead and accept these, but it doesn't stop there. The AI capabilities continue on. I did get a pretty nice little conclusion of this, but let's say it doesn't. I can come in and modify it anytime. I'm not happy with that conclusion. I want AI to give another attempt here. So I'm going to click on AI, and I'm going to say, all right, this is a pretty long note, and I want to turn this into my team. Like, hey, this is how we're going to focus our next ad campaign, how we're going to strategize. So let's summarize this for them. And they get just a nice, clean, concise little paragraph of anything that note contained. That note could have also come from me. I'm writing a review of a book that I'm reading or a project I'm working on. I need to turn that into my boss. I want to summarize this for him, clear and concise. It's a really, really great feature for notes that build up over time.
Yeah, I think that the power of the AI is not just in generating kind of raw content, like you would ask a question, then you get an answer back, but also kind of the interactive nature of it, right?
Yeah.
Before you get too far more into the kind of notes generation, I did want to comment on the creation of a thought structure via the AI. One of the things that I have been discovering more and more about as I play with the AI inside the brain. It's interesting with this kind of a feature because even though we built it, of course, we still learn more about it as we play with it because it's contributing, right? It's not.
Yes.
You kind of get more out than you put in, which is interesting. But yeah, I was starting to research a topic of a person that I wanted to know more information about, and I started reading Wikipedia and looking out on YouTube and watching videos, and I'm like, okay, well, I kind of get a little bit of an idea of who this person is, right? But then I went into the AI and I said, hey, generate a thought structure for me, right? And it created a structure of 50 different thoughts or something like that, right? And like all different levels. And I could really go in and explore, well, out of the top eight kind of main topics here, which one am I most interested in? And then get down into the weeds of each one
Yeah.
of those
Yeah.
things. And I learned so much more by browsing through the brain, just seeing the names of the thoughts than I could have in half an hour watching videos and reading Wikipedia or even reading just like a standard note that it would generate
Yeah.
from the AI,
Yeah.
right? Because it's non-linear, right? Like you don't have to follow from A, B, C, G all the way through Z. You can go from A to Y and then ask it to expand more on Y, right? Like the whole beauty of the interactive nature of it is like I can say, tell me all about the top 10 things about this person, right? And then these two things are the ones I want to expand, and these are the ones that I want to explore, and then I can interconnect them together. And then, as you're showing now, of course, on each individual piece of them, give me some real details and tell me how I can apply this to my life, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I also noticed that some questions coming in about the AI, which AIs are we using and so forth. I'm not sure if we'll get into all the technical aspects, but you can modify in the brain, which AI system you want to use. We're leaving that sort of open so that because AI it was the buzzword of 2023. It didn't exist in 2022. So,
almost, yeah.
we need to be able to customize it as AI evolves, the brain will be able to evolve. So people often ask, well, which AI engine do you use? Can't really
Yeah.
answer that. You've got a choice in the application. You can go into the preferences and play around with that.
Yeah, right now
And
it
yeah,
is ChatGPT, but like
yeah.
there's
And there's
different
different versions of,
there's different models of ChatGPT. Just this week new models got released.
yeah.
They're already being integrated into the software. So yeah, it's going to evolve over time.
Yeah. And so the next thing I wanted to share is let's come back to that guerrilla marketing. And this is one that I particularly like. And you can play around with these different features to familiarize yourself with them. But there's a few that I really want to highlight. This one I absolutely love, extract action items from a note. Once again, if you are sitting in long meetings and you're just taking notes about everything that everyone's sharing and their thoughts on the process and so forth, at the end of the day, what needs to get done? What, out of that note that you've compiled over time, what's the next step? And this really breaks it down to understand whatever the topic is up above. These are the action items that need to take place. It's just a wonderful way to get a concise next steps and have the brain tell you what you need to do from a note.
Yeah, I think if you give it a more concrete task also, like you're gonna get like a large goal, then you're gonna get small goals out of the summary, right? So if
Yeah.
you say, I want to climb Mount Everest, right? Then it's going to say, okay, here's all the stuff you need to do. And then it'll build you a checklist and it says, okay, you got to go and make sure you're in good
It's a good
shape and you got
example.
to do all these things, right? I mean, there's many
Yeah.
different steps, right?
Yeah.
It's going to break it down for you into kind of actionable items.
Yeah. And here is the opposite end of that. I've been interviewing at my organization where we're having a new web design, and I've just been keeping notes. Someone mentions, oh, be sure it has implements, SEO best practice. Okay, I jot that down. This, for all intents and purposes, could be just a bulleted list. So, but this again is going to be our guideline for the team that I'm developing. So I want this to be a document that I can share with them. I'm going to take just this list of random thoughts and ideas, and I'm going to have AI organize it for me. So I'll just click the AI button again and select to organize the note. And it's going to rewrite all of that content as a little bit more in depth and involve and just sort of clean things up a bit for me. It's still going. There we go. So we can accept that. And maybe I even want to expand upon that. Like, okay, this is great, but I really want to go even further, step by step, how these tasks are going to be done and the details of each. And before I accept this, I want to share that we can also, along the way, view what has changed, what AI actually modified for you. Now I've got a different color coding system, so it doesn't look as cute as it could, but again, we can see what AI decided to extract and add and so forth to get a really clear picture of, what did it change. And there's grammar and spelling as well available for you there. And if I like that, I'll go ahead and accept that. And that what started off as a really kind of disorganized little list has now really been cleaned up into a nice document that I can share with my team and move forward on.
Yeah, I think one of the maybe most valid criticisms of AI is it's not always right, of course, and it can imagine things and all that. You do need to be aware of that when you're using it, of course. But as an assistant, that's kind of less of a valid criticism, because you can give it information and say, here's what I want you to start with, and I want you to just rewrite this and make it easier to understand, make it appeal to my target audience, all that kind of stuff. And it will, for the most part, just use your ideas and your concepts and reorganize them in a way that's, more to the target audience that you've asked it for. And the Delta view that Matt was showing there, kind of the merged view of what was removed and what was added in, that's something that can be, really valuable in analyzing that kind of output.
Yeah. And just one last thing to share with the AI in the category of modifying your notes. You see, I started this note on setting up, maybe my organization, they're going to have a lot of satellite offices and we need a square terminal at each one for shoppers. So I want to have a document for everyone to follow how to set up our procedure for setting up a square terminal. And as you can see, I just finished this note mid-sentence. I didn't even complete the note. I don't have time, and I'm therefore going to let AI auto-complete the note. So it'll look at what you have so far and see sort of the path that you're on. It finishes the sentence even, as you can see right at the top. So it continues on with my sentence and it understands what I'm trying to do and finishes that up for me. That's actually pretty detailed. I'm actually really, that's pretty impressive. So it just told me how to set up my Apple Pay, the whole thing. It's all there. Great. So I can accept that. And again, continue on making my modifications and changes along the way.
Cool.
All right, so the next thing I'm going to take a look at, we're going to get away from work items, and I'm going to come over to my charities area. And I have a lot of information about different naturalists around the world. I'm particularly fascinated and interested in Charles Darwin, and maybe I've got a charity organization that I'm putting together that we're actually going to be visiting the Galapagos Islands. A lot of research is going to go into this. It's a project. I need a team. I need to know where we're going, when it's happening. I need to organize absolutely everything. And I'm just getting started. And the brain is a great way to tackle a project like that with all aspects of all the different moving parts. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've created a thought called In Darwin's Footsteps. That's what we're going to name our tour that we're going to be taking people on. And I'm going to start collecting some data. Now, as you know, if you're familiar with the brain, we can drag and drop files and documents right into the brain. And the first thing of 14 that I want to share with you is the new and improved browser capabilities, the embedded browser. And just to give you an idea really quickly here, I've got a couple of videos, for example. I can simply drag and drop those right into the brain. Video is going to play nicely over here in the content area. Sorry, I've got no control over the commercials that play first, but we can start watching our video, play those right there in the content area, and even go full screen in the content area as well. Great. But beyond that, web pages with more sort of advanced types of content. They're interactive. They've got videos that play. Let's get back to Darwin's Footsteps. I've got another video. I really like everything that's going on in this particular website. There's a lot of helpful resources. I want to preserve that. So once again, I simply drag and drop it right into the brain, and viewing it in the brain is just like viewing it in my favorite browser. So now that I've preserved all that information, I don't have to jump back and forth. I can watch videos, utilize interactive web pages and content right in the content area of the brain. And another type of interactive content that we have are Google Docs. A lot of what we do now is online. And so all types of different, Google Docs, those can be brought into the brain as well. This is my volunteer form. Now I can rename it. The brain picks up just like it does with any web page. There's a title in there that says edit, so I can click and rename that at any time. And what's really great is that I can edit. Harlan, I'm signing you up.
Oh boy.
Okay, you're going to be an extra L commitment level volunteer on the tour. There we go. So right there in the content area of the brain, I can start manipulating my Google Docs. If I go back to the Google Doc, you can see it's already updated there as well. And also it's important to point out, if you do share your brain with another user, now this is just a brain that I'm using, keeping track of my projects. If I were to share this with another user, that Google Doc, when I'm already logged in, but the built-in browser has cookies and allows you to log into secure sites and so forth. So when a stranger opens up this brain, if I send them a copy or include them in a team brain environment, when they get to this thought, they'll be prompted to log in if I've secured it through Google Docs. And taking that one step further, brought that document in, I want to talk about bringing other bits of content into the brain. And I'm going to do that via Brainbox. Now, the brain has evolved. Brainbox has evolved as well with some really, really fantastic and helpful features. Now, if you're familiar with Brainbox, you know that when you find a web page you like, once again, I'm going to be referring to this on my Galapagos tour. I really like it. So I'm already logged into Brainbox. I've already installed it on my browser. You can go to thebrain.com/Brainbox and find instructions for installing Brainbox on your favorite browser, getting the right extension. And once you log in, the first time I click on Brainbox, I'll be prompted to log in, and it follows the same rules as it did in the past. If I just simply click the Brainbox, that is going to add this URL to my Brainbox list if I take no further actions. There, it's added, and when I come back to the brain and I've got some time to review my content, I can open up Brainbox, and there it just showed up, my Galapagos Islands Expedition Cruises. Great, but we go much further beyond that. I am going to find another web page, and obviously I want to be referring to Darwin while we're there in the Galapagos. So I want to find some tidbits, information about his life and so forth, and work those into my notes as well. So this time I'm going to click on the Brainbox icon, but before it automatically launches, I'll go into the options. And now the world is my oyster. There's a lot that I can do with this content that I've just captured or that I'm about to capture. First and foremost, like I said, if I just would have, allowed the process to complete, it would have automatically sent that into my Brainbox for me to add in the right place. Now I can choose the right place ahead of time. In fact, I know that what I'm going to be doing over the next hour or so is researching this Galapagos trip. So I want to set up a workflow. I can uncheck this particular box so that it comes back to this larger window every time I click on Brainbox. If I keep that checked, it's going to follow whatever process I set up. So instead of just sending it to Brainbox, I'm going to create this content as a child thought of, and I'll click to browse. And I'm sort of showing two features at once here, the new advancements in Brainbox, but also the cross-brain searching. So Darwin's Footsteps is what I'm calling my group. And I'm now searching all brains that I have access to for a thought called Darwin's Footsteps. And there it is, my universe That's the brain I'm in today, in Darwin's footsteps. I'm going to select that. And I've set up a workflow. So every time I click that Brainbox icon, it's automatically going to create whatever I'm adding as a child thought of in Darwin's footsteps in my universe. I've got a button here to change that thought at a later date. And the web clipper. I can actually preserve the content of that website. So all of the pictures, the images, this could change. Websites change all the time. And I might want to preserve that in the notes, in the content area of the brain. So not just a link to the web page, the URL might change, the content may change in the future. I'm actually preserving all of this data in the note. So I can create, and that's going to open up this thought on the brain cloud and review for me to take a look at, or the lightning bolt will just automatically, I know it's taken care of and it's automatically added for me. And yeah, go ahead if you've got something you want to add there. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the web clipper is something that people have been asking for quite a long time. I think we've done a pretty good job of it with this iteration. A few of the things that Matt has kind of gone through there pretty quickly is like when it adds information from the current web page, it's going to be able to get all the content from that web page, even if it's behind a login or something like that. So if you have, proprietary content on your own systems, or a page that you subscribe to, a service that you pay for, maybe you have to log in before you can access it. In the past, if you wanted to put that stuff in your brain, you had to go and log in and copy and paste and all that kind of thing. And if you just took the URL itself, you would only get your login page, basically, right?
Yeah.
But now, because Brainbox is integrated directly into the browser, it has access to everything the browser has access to, which means that once you log in, all that stuff is ready and available for you to pull right into your brain. As Matt's just shown here, it will automatically capture whatever you have selected, right? So the default action, if there's no selection, is to analyze the page and try to pull out kind of the main content, right? Mm-hmm. But if there's this particular paragraph or a picture, whatever that you want to grab, you can just drag to select it, and then when you activate the Brainbox, it's going to take that selection, right?
And I can even modify this and add my own notes to it. The reason why I'm adding George Darwin is he's sort of known as the father of predicting solar eclipses. Which is relevant in the news these days, but George Darwin actually figured out a systematic way to predict. He was the first, apparently, to do so when the next solar eclipse is. So there I've captured, if you saw, it was a much larger page. I don't need all that content. This is some random page that looks like it could be gone, years from now or what have you. So in this case, I'm really not interested in the URL. I'm going to uncheck that. I just want to save George Darwin, again, under the same location, with my own note and a little bit of information and picture about him. So highly customizable. You see one little snippet of information you like on the web page. You don't have to save the whole web page. You can just grab that content that you're after.
Very cool.
Yep. And then the final components that I want to share, and actually let's come back to Darwin's footsteps and sync. The brain syncs in the background every now and then. The information that I'm adding is being synced up to the brain cloud, and then will show up here in my local brain as well. But also, I've got another charity event that I'm working on. So I'm going to go to my charities. And I'm also working with a local community recycling group. We're planning a little sort of a field trip to educate ourselves to the Brooklyn Recycling Center, where apparently they're doing all kinds of amazing things with recycling these days. Okay, fantastic. A new project that I'm going to be keeping track of, where we're staying, how we're getting there, the agenda, and so forth. And we're going to try and leave a clean footprint. So we're going to be taking community transportation while we're there. So I want to bring in a map of the New York City Metro, the train system. And I seem to recall that I have a train map. I can go find it online and bring it in. But if I just do a search for New York, sorry, my fingers aren't keeping up with New York subway. I'm actually searching for, and there it showed up right at the top. So the brain actually didn't find New York subway anywhere in this particular brain that I have open. But as you can see, thoughts and links from other brains. So this is that cross brain searching. It found it in another, this is a real brain of mine, Laura Bloom, New York City subway map. And it found it in some notes. I referenced the New York subway in another brain called 14 and my new company brain. And in a document as well, an architecture brain that I have, street, that's all about street art. Obviously mentions New York subway system there too. So I'm gonna actually click and verify that this is the thought that I want. So it closes the brain I'm in. It follows the same rules that the brain follows when you launch an attachment. It launches in its native application. So here I was brought to the my New York subway map that I have, actually in just another brain. I took a trip with my family, and I've got a New York subway map for my son's birthday and all the details there. So I don't like to duplicate a lot of information. These two brains that I'm in, the brain that you're seeing now and the brain that I just recently had open, are my own like personal brain databases. So rather than just copying this content, this PDF, I'm going to right click, and this is nothing new. We've always been able to do this, but I'm going to copy the local thought URL for this brain and come back to my universe. I'll right click and paste that local thought URL. So is the New York subway map there? It certainly is. I can get to it just by launching this particular thought. Even if that one's closed, it'll launch again. But I launched that attachment and it's going to open up a new tab, take me directly to that thought in that brain. So that's how that thought, cross brain searching. And now more than ever, I'm one of those users that has more than one brain. If you look at my brain list, it's pretty extensive. So the cross brain searching really was enlightening for me. The first couple of times I did some searches, I found data in brains that I have it, and you don't have to relearn that information. It's there, it's available for you. You can get right from one brain to another. It's just a great feature that I really appreciate.
Yeah, for those of you who've been with us for some time, you'll know that there's a little bit of a debate, kind of two factions, I guess. The one brain for it all faction and the multi-brain faction. The software was originally conceived as like a single brain for it all, right? In the first version of the software, you never even created a brain. You just launched the software and your brain was there.
Yeah.
And there was no way to isolate separate brains.
Yeah.
But necessity is the mother of invention. And there were valid reasons why somebody might want separate brains, different access control and all that sort of stuff. And so that capability was born. But with the advent of cross-brain searching, it kind of starts to make it less and less of a debate. You can really start to turn multiple brains into one, in that you can search, and of course it's going to search your local context first, meaning if you have the information that you're looking for in the brain that you're in right now, those are the first results it's going to suggest, right? If it doesn't find anything there, then it's going to keep on searching and look at other brains that you have.
Yeah.
If it doesn't find anything there, it's going to find other brains that people have shared with you, right? So it's like expanding out into different realms to try to get that information for you and present it to you. And then, of course, when you link it in, you can link it in a way that will allow you to kind of jump across those cross-brain borders. And this is something that's going to continue to evolve and get better and better as we go forward. And we have a lot of cool stuff planned for that.
And here you can see I did a very general search for just the word business, found a few notes in this particular brain that contain the word business. Then it, like you said, Harlan, moves on to thoughts and links from other brains. There are quite a few brains that I have access to, but maybe you saw it was just building in the background as we went, and it went up to 986 matches for for a search term that general.
Cool.
And then Harlan, I am going to let you decide if you want to talk about any other features.
Sure, yeah.
I've got another, just so everyone knows, I do everything in the brain. We all do.
Yeah.
And even, I'm keeping a checklist in another brain on another monitor, and we get to this last little component here. So
yeah, we really have done a lot of stuff in the last year or so, culminating in this release of 14. We kind of forgot to mention the web clipper when we did the introduction. I'm sorry about that, but the web clipper is a pretty major feature.
Yeah.
It did take us a lot of time to develop, and a lot of thought went into it. So I'm glad that Matt had his list, so we didn't forget it as we did the demo. Yeah, one of the other things that we haven't really talked about is the API, of course. The Brain has had an API for a very long time. It just hasn't been available for anyone to see. And there's reasons for that. Kind of the main reason is that the API that we use internally is something that changes rapidly and is very specialized to the different features that we were working on and developing. But we've now kind of packaged the portions up of the API that are kind of the most general purpose and easiest to understand and very stable into something that anyone can consume with a little bit of software expertise, I guess.
Yeah.
It's at api.bra.in. This is the page right here. If you want to go ahead and investigate it, you can go there. It is a REST API, as they call it, which basically means that as you submit requests, it doesn't retain kind of a context of state. So it's not like operating a brain as a person where you have an active thought and you have a content window and all that kind of stuff. You're basically telling the API every time, I want you to do this to this thought. I want to find out what attachments are on this thought. I want to search. I want to create a new attachment and so on and so forth, right? But it's a pretty extensive API. You can do almost anything that you can in the software through the API, including searching through your brains, finding a list of brains, creating attachments, creating notes, editing notes, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and there's a community on our forums. We don't see what people are doing with the API. It's up to you to go ahead and use that as your sandbox. And there's a community on the forums that are very open to sharing and answering questions and so forth.
Yeah, there's pretty cool things that have been developed already. If you wanted to tie your brain into your internal messaging platform on your company intranet, for example, like you could set up something that every time a message gets sent to brain@mycompany.com, go and create a thought in my brain. And that's something that can be fully automated now. And it's going to sync down to your desktop software. It's pretty straightforward to use. This is kind of the standard way that APIs are built these days. So you can use any language. And we've got a bunch of samples for how to set it up for Python and C# and I don't remember what else, probably JavaScript or something like that. And then, the other thing that I did want to mention that I keep forgetting to mention is, of course, that the web client has been vastly improved from 13 to 14. It's not directly tied into the release schedule, of course, so that's why it's not really something that we talk about a lot when we're referencing 14, but it is worth talking about now in that the web client has been dramatically updated, and it's a lot more capable now, and it's gonna continue to evolve. So I just wanted to kind of point that out to folks. The platform that we're building on now is a lot more capable. Those of you who have been with us for a while know that the web client in the past has been, unsatisfactory in various respects. And some people were kind of frustrated that it took us a while to get to it, but there's a reason for that, which is that, we wanted to do it right. We didn't want to keep building on kind of a poor foundation. And this version that you see here is a lot more capable and has much more much more capability to expand upon and grow to a very powerful interface. So you can expect to see that to continue.
Yeah, and you can do a lot in the web client, add notes, add thoughts, pretty much everything that you can do in the desktop, and it's opened the door for a lot of new users. I always thought like, oh, I love the desktop. I use the web client as sort of the hub where I sync my brains and then still access them from a different desktop, and all of that until one day I logged in to the desktop from my son's Chromebook. I was like, how useful. This is great. I can get to my brain, look up a phone number, take some notes, all from a Chromebook. So it was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening for me.
Yeah, we really knew that the web client was getting to be very powerful when people in the office started like forgetting which version they were using. They're like, oh wait,
oh, I'm in the web client. Yeah.
I forgot I was in the web client.
Yeah.
But anyway, I should say we still recommend the desktop client for the most powerful experience and all the features. Some of the things that we've shown here today are not available on the web client. So if you do have the opportunity to install the software and use the full version, that's what you should do still. But yeah, it is worth noting that we have done a lot of stuff on the web client. So.
Great. And so some questions are coming in. Juan, feel free to send any other additional questions. That's all the demo, everything that we wanted to share with you today. If you're new to the brain, I'll remind you, lots of questions about AI, Juan is saying. I'll remind you that we do have a Brain 101 call. Those classes are typically smaller. Today's class we were pretty maxed out on attendees for today's class. So Juan has his hands full with all of these questions. One question that's coming in is about the AI tools in both areas of the brain. And I think what they mean is there's an AI button, just to make it really clear, an AI button in the Plex and an AI button over here in the content area. So I can utilize, first I generate a note and then I can manipulate that note with the AI button in the content area. And the AI button in the Plex is where I'm actually creating new thoughts, generating thought structures and so forth. On the web client, again, people sometimes say, oh, I'm in the web client. Where's the AI button there? And it's still there. When you go to search or create any content, you get an AI button. And from that AI button is where you can generate a thought structure, grouping of child thoughts, or a note. But to manipulate that note, again, just come back, sync your brain and come back to the desktop client where you can start modifying that. So a lot of AI buttons appearing in there.
Yeah. So yeah, at this point, the kind of desktop client is a little bit more evolved in terms of how the interface works for the AI. We did start the AI I guess development in the web client, so that's why it's slightly different. But we expect to evolve the web client to be more like the desktop, with the two different buttons to initiate action, either in the Plex, in the network, or in the notes and the content. So, yeah.
Yeah, and when you're utilizing the AI, again, you're not sending all the data in your brain to ChatGPT. You're
good point.
Yeah, yes. You're sending your query, the question.
Yeah. One of the drawbacks about AI, and one of the things that has kind of upset a lot of people is that the models have been trained on people's data, sometimes without them knowing. Most of the time, maybe 99.9% of the time. We are not doing that. So the AI is not trained on your data. You're not submitting your data to the AI when you click those buttons. There's nothing to worry about there. The only information that gets submitted when you click the AI button is the information that is in that dialog box, right? So then if you want to click that AI button on the Plex there again. So when I submit this request and say generate the thought structure, all it is sending is the words Brooklyn Recycling Center, and then we have a bunch of kind of engineering in the back end that makes it come out as a brain and kind of tweaks it to be most effective for how we want to use it, right? If you click set context thought, then it's going to send that extra information. If you use children for context, it's going to send the names of those children. It is not sending the notes inside of your thoughts. It is not sending the notes inside of the children. Everything that is sending is visible right here.
Yeah.
If you use the AI inside of a note, if you ask it to generate a note, then it is only sending the title of the thought. If you change the prompt there at the top, of course, it's going to change. It's going to send that information, and it doesn't have to even include the name of the thought that you initially have. You can replace that with whatever you like.
Yeah.
Of course, if you select something and ask it to rewrite it, or you ask it to correct the grammar or write it in the style of a 2-year-old or whatever you want, whatever it is you want it to do, it's going to send that piece that you have selected, of course, right? Yeah, that's the kind of extent of information that's shared with the AI.
And there, I just rewrote a paragraph about the recycling center as poetry. So
always useful.
I'm always, yeah.
Who doesn't want their notes as poetry?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's, Juan's taken care of a lot of the questions, but, people are asking about, a couple of people have asked about what's next. You released the Brain 14 and people want to know about the Brain 15. The Brain is always in development. We're always trying to improve and expand upon the capabilities of the Brain software. But Harlan, what does the future hold?
Well, the Brain 14 is, barely out the door.
Just a baby. Just a baby.
We have a few more things that we're going to be doing in the Brain 14 that are kind of in the pipeline. But no major new features are going to come out in the Brain 14, most likely. The next platform, of course, is the Brain 15. We've already been working on that for a very long time. I can't say too much about it yet, but it is going to be a big change.
That's great.
So there'll be a lot of new stuff and a lot of new capabilities. So
great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for getting to know the Brain 14. If you do have further questions, we're always available. support@thebrain.com. You can send us a note. And again, join us for a Brain 101. Every Friday, Brain 101. We're happy to have you, and I answer all the questions. I can see Juan had his hands full with questions. Harlan, any last final comments to share?
Well, just thank you for attending. Thank you for your support. We always appreciate hearing from you. One of the most satisfying things about building a product like this is seeing how people in the real world are using it. And I've met a lot of cool people through the Brain, of course. A lot of people that I never would have had the opportunity to meet. And not just like famous people, but also like just normal everyday people who are like doing really cool stuff, right? That you wouldn't have heard about otherwise. But the Brain, the other day somebody asked me like, what do you do again? I'm like, well, I make software. I'm like, what kind of software do you make? Well, it's for people that it's just, I've never thought of it this way before, but it just kind of came out of me. I was like, it's for people who collect knowledge. And they're like, oh, okay.
That's all of us. We're always learning.
Yeah. We're all knowledge collectors, right?
Yeah.
And I think people that use the Brain are just kind of more explicit about it. So thank you for being one of those people, and enjoy the Brain 14.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.